Leave a like on the video and this house will come to you in the mail. Redditors who are a missing person. What's your story? My parents stopped talking to each other since I was 5, but they still lived together. One day, my father took me, 9F at the time, to go shopping with him. We came back to find all the neighborhood looking for me and screaming my name. Well, my mother was relieved, but my parents had their 1,245,543th fight again. This could have been avoided with one phone call. I wish they could just divorce. My sister once had the entire neighborhood, the police department, and God knows who else out looking for her. It turns out, she had crawled behind the sofa and fell asleep on top of an air conditioning vent for about 5 hours. My mom went inside as the sun started to go down and sat down on the couch to cry. My sister then crawled out from behind the couch and started petting her on the head, asking her what was wrong. My grandmother found me in the cupboard under the sink eating butter just before they were about to call the police. I have several questions, but none that wouldn't just lead to more questions. When I was young, probably about 6 I think, my family went on vacation to Yosemite. We stayed in a small cabin at a campground. I met another kid who was a bit older than me, and we went exploring. Apparently we went a bit too far, and eventually ran into a bear cub. We just stood and stared at each other for a few minutes, and went our separate ways. When I got back to the cabin, I found out that park rangers had been out looking for me, because my parents had no idea where I was. For some reason they didn't think my bear story was as cool as I did. Got tired of my dad kicking the shit out of me, so I ran away at 15. KSP found me less than a week later drunk as fuck in the train yard by where I lived. Dad was pretty upset, but he got sober and stopped being a dick after that. Dang, that sucks. I'm glad he got some of his shit together. Yeah, we made amends before he passed 10 years ago. Had a great relationship after he got sober. He spent 22 years in the Navy, and he was bitter and angry after him, and my mom got divorced. I don't and didn't hate him for it, I was just let down at the time, because I idolized the man, only to see him come apart and take it out on me. I got lost at Six Flags as a kid, and it seemed like the entire police force was looking for me. In 2nd grade, I fell asleep on the school bus ride home and missed my stop. My mom always waited at my stop to meet me and freaked out when I didn't get off the bus. The bus driver looked back, and since I was lying down fast asleep, he didn't see me. An hour later, I woke up at a random school bus terminal on the outskirts of town, and my mom had phoned half the town freaking out. Funny story to tell now, but my poor mother was convinced I had been kidnapped for a solid 2 hours. It really took a lot out of her. My mom had to shit can a bus driver for not doing a sweep of the bus when he parked it for the night. Poor kid woke up in a dark bus and was terrified. This was before cell phones were common for primary school children. He made a fuss until the night janitorial staff went to investigate why one of the buses was making noise and moving around a bit. Not me, but my brother was missing for around a year. He disappeared before, but only for a few days. He suffers from paranoid schizophrenia and would often get delusional, but this time he didn't turn up. We live in New York City and my parents had no idea where to look for him. They'd regularly go to the police station and look at pictures of bodies that had turned up. He didn't have any friends or girlfriends we could ask about him. He had just vanished. A year later we got a call from a hospital in DC. My brother had been picked up on the street, nearly dead from malnutrition. He'd gone to Washington to warn the government about something or other. He often refused to eat, believing his food was poison, and lived on the streets for a year. The only reason he survived was because other homeless people took care of him and convinced him to occasionally eat something. He was a skeleton when they found him, full of flea bites. Eventually my parents nursed him back to health. He's still mentally ill, but hasn't tried to disappear again. I think about him whenever I see a homeless person. Losing a kid is terrifying. When my girls were about 3 I took them to an amusement park for smaller kids. They got off the spinning strawberry ride, and for some reason I took my eyes off them to read some sign. And when I looked down, only one of them was standing there. Okay, so I look around. The other one must be close by. That's odd. Hehe. Okay. So maybe she just wandered a bit further. I'll just scan a bit farther. Okay. I can't see her. Panic is rising from my stomach. She was just here. I ask my daughter, have you seen your sister? No, of course not. She just wants to go to the other rides. Okay. Don't panic. Grab kid. Start walking a radius. Where is she? Okay, don't panic. It's a closed amusement park, nobody can leave with her. Maybe I should head to the entrance then. Holy crap. There she is. Missing daughter had, in the 5 seconds that I wasn't looking, wandered over to look at the merry-go-round across the path from the strawberry ride, and was hidden from my view by some plants. The flood of relief was immense. I calmly asked them both to not wander off by themselves again, and re-evaluated my kid watching abilities. It is for this reason that when people scoff at other people for using kid leashes, as if they're dogs, I can tell they aren't parents. Kids are small ninjas. My mother was on the phone with the police after I fell asleep in a cemetery for 7 hours after school. I had a shit home life, so I'd be anywhere and everywhere I could be to not go home. Beginning of the school year was still really nice outside, so I decided to hit the Dunkin' Donuts near my house, grab some coffee, and I walked to the cemetery. That was maybe 10 minutes walk from my house. There was a really nice mausoleum in the cemetery, which happened to be the structure at the highest point in the city, so you can, on a clear day, see about 15 miles. I chilled there for a while, just kinda thinking. About 300 feet away is a statue of Jesus on the cross, with other figures. I was kinda tired, so I laid a little ways away from it, just enough to get some shade, not enough to be laying on it, and I listened to music until I passed out. Woke up a few hours later, figured fuck it, might as well go home, and my mother started losing her shit. He just walked in. I'm so sorry, where the duck were you? I left and went back to the cemetery. I had had a psychotic break. One day, I decided to head into the city to spend the day at museums and stuff. At some point during the day, I had a complete break from reality. I don't really remember anything. At the time I was living with my parents, and when I didn't come home they reported me missing. I was gone for 4 days. During that time I'd gone and bought entirely new clothes and threw away everything I had, and I booked myself into a hotel room. I have no idea how police found me. Did they trace my phone or bank account, or is that something that just happens on TV? But they burst into the hotel room and got me seen to, and after that I was alright, but still with no real memory. I don't know what caused it or what I did for 4 days. I became a missing person during my first sexual experience. Family vacation. I was about 12 at the time. My parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents all got together for a big camping expedition. I met a couple of girls at the swimming pool and they suggested I sneak into their tent that night at midnight to play truth or dare. My parents, my brother and myself all shared one big tent. Everyone went to bed early that night except for me. All I could think about was finally touching a boob, and that was more than enough to keep me awake. Finally, at midnight, I slowly creeped over to the tent exit and started to unzip it, and of course that's when my mom woke up. She asked what I was doing. I told her I had to take a shit, so she handed me a roll of toilet paper, and, I thought, went back to sleep. I threw the toilet paper in the bushes and went on my merry way to tame some strange. Fast forward over 2 hours later, I had made out with a girl for the first time, touched a few boobs, even rounded second base, and was feeling pretty good about myself. We noticed there were cars driving all around slowly, which was unusual being as late as it was. I decided to head back, just in case my mom noticed I was gone. I walk over a hill, still sporting a massive and obvious erection, only to be greeted by my entire extended family and about 6 cops. Turns out my mom had a car speed off just after I said I was going to take a shit, found the toilet paper I threw, and assumed I had been kidnapped. The cops told me they were about to put together a search party complete with canines. Everyone's crying and angry at me. I think the worst was when my grandfather, who was always a very reserved man, looked me dead in the eye and asked if I realized how utterly disappointed he was in me. Instant boner killer. I never did see those girls again. Thanks for watching. Drop a like, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. And yes, this is a free outro template, you plebs.